Lay down. Beasley. Beasley. Oh my God. What the heck? Dogs. Hey guys, it's Katie here, and Micah for the moment. Can you sit down, please? Okay, thank you. Guys, we all have very beautiful, highly variegated skeins of yarn in our stash. We all do. Everybody does. They're gorgeous. How can you not love that? How can you not pick that up? But when you go to knit it, what happens? Oh, but you get pooling. You get pooling, you get flashing, and it also drowns most patterns out to the point where you just will not be able to see them. You will never be able to see the pattern, and the colors just become too much together where they don't necessarily look as good as they could have, and definitely not as good as they did in skein form. So I was challenged when I saw this Rainbow Road, which you've heard me talk about so many damn times, from Lauren of Granite State Yarns. I was challenged to create and design a pattern that would avoid pooling and that would make this yarn shine. When I first started buying hand-dyed yarns, when I first discovered them, I bought the wildest, craziest skeins I could find. Where did 90% of them end up? Destashed. Because I quickly realized that those beautiful works of art do not knit up very well into most patterns. So they went to new homes. But over the years, I have wanted to create something that would showcase them. How can I make them work? Well, when I saw this Rainbow Road, I was like, I need to make this work. I'm going to sit down and figure this out. So I did. And I'm going to share with you my little trick. Now, there is a big difference. We're going to talk for a second about pooling versus flashing. Flashing are short little snippets of color that just so happen to be the same. Pooling is where you will have one color, like say this pink up here. Say it came all the way down. That would be pooling. Where it is over here, this is flashing. It's flashing across the rows in chunks. Pooling is a much larger piece. I wanted to avoid that. So on this cowl, what I did, I took my cake, I pulled one end from the center, and then I pulled one end from the outside to work this pattern up. That allowed all of the beautiful colors to shine and show without there being pooling. This pattern particular because you start off knitting flat and then it's joined in the round. That's where I got my flashing from. As soon as I joined it in the round, it flashed a bit before it leveled out. So my trick to avoid pooling with highly variegated skeins is to hold it double. This will, of course, be held double, so now it's a little heavier than just plain fingering, but you can get away with that in most patterns. So you pull one end from the center, one end from the outside. You may get flashing, but you're not going to get pooling. On my spiked punch cowl, I used one color for the background, which was a high contrast. I think that's probably the next biggest point to make, is it needs to be knit with a high contrast yarn. There are tons of excellent overall patterned textural patterns out there. High contrast background, hold your high variegated yarn double, pulling one end from the center, one end from the outside. That is your trick to avoid pooling. We will never avoid flashing, but you can hardly see it. And throughout this whole thing, it allows each color to shine in its own right. This is a way that maybe you can avoid it and still use those treasured skeins that we have. We all have them. I have some, I admit, I will probably never use. They are works of art. I feel blessed and honored to have them in my stash. They may never be used. But if you want to use them, high contrast background, hold it double, pulling one end from the outside, one end from the center, and you may have yourself a winner. This is my spiked punch pattern, which I used this on, which will be out very shortly. And I'm very, very happy with how it came out. I've never been a neon fan, but now I am. I found a way that I toned it down ever so slightly to be beautiful. So, if you've got those high contrast variegated skeins in your stash, maybe this is a way that you'll be able to use them and you'll be able to make them shine. They will muddle together with themselves enough to allow pops of color without pools of color, because pools don't look good in a lot of patterns unless you're knitting a vanilla sock, which will really show it off. And some of those pooled vanilla socks or the planned pooling scarves or shawls that are out there, they're pretty. But we don't always want to do that. So this may be a little solution that will work for you. And I hope you enjoyed my little tip. If you did, subscribe and be sure to check out the Katie Knits podcast, which I am the host of. And I'm also the Katie behind Katie DeGraff Knits. You can check out all my patterns on Ravelry and Etsy. Be linked down below. So in the meantime, until we see each other again, happy knitting, everybody.